This has been going on a long time. This is been a tradition all the way back to this Westside Community Center and everything there. For people who haven't been there, tell them why this event is important both to the community and to the chamber.
It's so important because it gives the community a really good up-close opportunity to hear from our delegation, to hear about what they've been working on, what they're working towards. There's opportunity to speak one-on-one with them, and it's just a really good setting for that to happen.
Why is this important for the chamber to put this on?
It's very important for the chamber. It's our role in the community to be supportive and educate and make sure that we are providing you with these opportunities to come and hear that. Not everybody gets that chance, so this is one of our things that we do every single year. We look forward to it, and it's just a need and a resource that we can do.
Yeah,
All right.
It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator this morning. So Brian White is the founder and president of Capital Strategies Group, a government relations and community public affairs consulting firm based here in Anderson. He has more than 2 decades of distinguished public service and expertise in legislative strategies. Brian helps clients navigate the complexities of government and turns challenges into solutions. Brian served in the South Carolina House of Representatives from 2001 to 2022, representing South Carolina District 6, which is here in Anderson County. During his tenure, he rose to chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, where he oversaw the state's $30 billion annual budget. He served on the Joint Bond Review Committee and the State Fiscal Accountability Authority. In his more than 2 decades of service, he has consistently worked for the benefit of South Carolinians. He pushed for economic development with the Charleston Port expansion, the Farm Aid Bill, small business tax cuts, and creation of the Office of Innovation. He was instrumental in recruiting Volvo and Arthrex to South Carolina and expanding TTI. He created the SC Works Workforce Development Scholarship, established statewide e-learning days in K through 12, and helped expand telemedicine across South Carolina. Brian is married to Courtney White, and they have 3 daughters, Amelia, Isabel, and Madeline. And of course, they live right here in Anderson. Brian seeks to continue his legacy of service through advocating to policymakers and government leaders for the betterment of South Carolina. Please help me welcome Brian to the podium this morning.
Always laughing to make Courtney nervous too at the same time, but thank you for having me this morning. It's a little different place than normally that I've been through the years doing this breakfast. I remember my first one ever probably 25 years ago over at the Westside Community Center. Dan Cooper was on the delegation with us, and we had a chairman named Ronnie Townsend that made life a whole lot easier because basically, we call him Mikey. Senator Gambrell was a friend. We go by first names. Mikey replaced Ronnie, but Ronnie would always answer all the questions. All we had to do was sit there and eat. We didn't have to worry about a darn thing. But thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity. And I promise to be somewhat easy on the questions, but I do want to thank the members of the delegation that are here. We've got the chair of the delegation, Senator Cash, Senator Gambrell, obviously Representative Chapman, and Representative Sanders here with us. Going to dive into our questions, and I'll call them crossroad questions, because I think Anderson and the state of South Carolina right now is at a crossroads. We're growing, we're expanding, I think faster than probably most of us would imagine or dreamed or thought about. I know our friends here at Duke Energy is having to run lines and generate more power and do things, and that's been in the news here lately as well. But so we'll start out with some fun ones. So these questions kind of developed amongst you. I reached out to some of the folks within the community and said, hey, Anderson County, City of Anderson, ANMED, and some others, what would you like to know what's affecting you and how can we convey those questions to the legislative delegation that pertain to Anderson specific, because these gentlemen serve on a lot of different panels around the state, and those questions aren't generally specific to Anderson. They're just encompassing for everything. So one of them is one of our big employers here in Anderson, ANMED, came up with a really good question. So whoever wants it first, someone may not want it. Me, you gonna punt over here? Well, I noticed that usually the House is over here and the Senate's over there, but y'all switched today for some unknown reason. So South Carolina was one of the states that did not expand Medicaid back whenever Nikki Haley was governor. And with the recent passage of the big beautiful bill and the Medicaid cuts that are coming down on that, we all love Ronald Reagan, and under the law that Ronald Reagan signed back in the 80s, you have to take care of anyone that comes into the emergency room, no matter what. And I like that part, because being of the Christian faith, we're supposed to take care of everybody. So mental health this year has asked about more Medicaid funding for mental health coverage for those that are coming into the emergency rooms, as well as other services available. And I know the House has the budget, so Mikey's kind of punting over here to them first. So since their budget's just passed the committee, what are your thoughts about the expansion of the Medicaid program to cover needs like mental health and other services?
Don's the oldest. Okay.
Well, I thought Mikey was going to take this one because he's on the Senate Finance. But well, first off, thank you for having us here. It is definitely a full house. It's great to see people in our community wanting to participate in this process. So, well, first and foremost, I want to tell you that I believe that ANMED does a wonderful job with our community. I attribute my brother, first off, at 58 years old, had a heart attack. And within 20 minutes, he was on the heart cath table getting stents. And then about a week and a half later, he had 7 bypasses. I didn't even know you could get that many, but I attribute them to saving my brother's life. So I think they do a wonderful job. They've done, every time I've ever been there, it's been an excellent service. So we appreciate their involvement in our community. But as far as Medicaid, I believe mental health is probably one of the biggest issues and challenges that we face every day, whether it be substance abuse, alcohol abuse, or mental health specifically that can typically only be treated with medication. I think the closure of Bull Street and our mental health system put a lot of those people on the street. My understanding is we, down the street we have the mental health hospital, but half of it's not being used because we don't have the staffing. So we've got to do so. We've got almost have to go back and look at how we can figure out how to solve the problem. Money is one thing that a lot of people tell us all the time, that throw more money at it and that'll help. But at the same time, I think Medicaid plays a big part, and so only being in my 4th year, I'm not on Ways and Means, so but I try to participate in a lot of the committee hearings that they have. But I do think that we need to put more money towards mental health, because everything from the homeless population to the alcohol and substance abuse issues, a lot of that deals specifically with mental health. I do want to say that the separation of the services with DHEC, I think, plays a big part in trying to streamline those services so that we separated the septic tank and environmental issues separately from the medical side. So I think that's one thing that'll help us streamline the services because they were getting pushed from one side to another. And I believe that'll solve a lot of the issues once we get that intact.
Well, the Senate's really quiet today.
I'm telling you.
Why you can't. So I'm Blake Sanders. I represent District 9. And if you don't know where District 9 is, go to the world's largest flea market and drive 15 minutes in any direction, and that is District 9. It includes Pellsboro, West Pellsboro, Williamston, and half of the city of Anderson. So I will not repeat anything that Don mentioned, but I do want to talk about rural health care in particular, and investing in those opportunities that such as ANMED did in Piedmont. Maybe Piedmont's not as rural as we once thought it was, but it's definitely a healthcare desert, if you will. And so using those funds to invest in our rural healthcare is vitally important. I think the other component is investing in healthy lifestyles, so that we can create opportunities maybe so that you don't have to go to the doctor as much. And so I'm a huge trail advocate. I'm a huge outdoorsman, so I want to create more opportunities for healthy foods, but then also just access to multimodal transportation and trails and greenways, anything that can keep us more active. And then the final thing, and this is a plug for AOP Clubhouse. Yes, we can invest at the state level in mental health, but everyone in this room has an opportunity to invest as well in the Anderson Oconee Pickens Clubhouse that's going to be located in Pendleton. I don't know where Zeke's at, but I know he's in here. Zeke, raise your hand. Oh, he left. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. All right. You can see Carol then if you want to learn more about AOP Clubhouse. But it's a great investment. They're already across the state, and we have plans to put one right here in Anderson County, and all of you can contribute to that.
So we talked about Medicaid stuff.
Well, mental health and the expansion of it to
Yeah.
federal services because of the federal
If
pushback.
I'll say this, President Alexander in Oconee County is generally over that part of the budget, and I have not seen any movement to expand Medicaid, and that's about all I can say about that. Want to add anything to that?
Never asked me if I want to add anything, just hope it's not very much. First of all, thank you for the honor and privilege of allowing me to serve you in the South Carolina Senate. It's a great honor, and I take it very seriously. Folks, Medicaid's going to expand whether we want it to or not. We're the fastest growing country in our state and the country. Medicaid's going to expand. And now one thing to keep in mind about Medicaid, and I think it's still in effect, every dollar that the state spends on Medicaid, the federal government reimburses us $3. So that's a big help. That's a big help. Is it enough? No, it's never enough. We've got a lot of pressing needs in this state. My hat's off to Blake and Don. Did you notice how quickly they went and shifted from mental health to septic tanks and trails? They're learning this game, but Medicaid and mental health. We've got Patrick B. Harris Hospital here. We need about 3 more Patrick B. Harris hospitals. Logan's here from Senator Graham's office. They've done a big asset to help us in working on that. But that's all I got.
So now we're going to get on to something Mike and I were having a discussion the other day, or I guess they say Senator Gambrell, but they, in his office, and it's something that, from Anderson County's perspective, roads, infrastructure, water, sewer. And I think all of you touched on the fact that we are the fastest growing state that's going on. And you can bring a little bit of the sprawl into it there, I think. Senator Sanders and I had the conversation as well about sprawl last week as well, about the planning, how with the DOT reforms that are going on in the House and the Senate at the moment, as well as other funds, and Senator Gambrell, you on the rural infrastructure that I said, how do you think is the best way to address our needs for local roads, water, sewer, infrastructure?
Like I say, as Brian said, I serve on the Rural Infrastructure Authority. That means nothing to y'all. We handle water and sewer and economic development projects that come our way. We've got an economic development fund. We've got a revolving loan fund. We've got just straight out grants. Every municipality, every county can put in for up to 1.5 million. in grants. There's a 20% match on that. Infrastructure in our water and our sewer is the big disaster waiting to happen. Everything we've got in the ground now is probably 50 to 100 years old. And the rural infrastructure, a lady named Bonnie Ammons runs that. And we've been very fortunate here in Anderson County to be able to take advantage of some of those funds and some of those programs. One thing we're working on, we've got a whole bunch of little water companies and little sewer companies all over the state. We're trying to push for a little consolidation. And I always tell them, my background is in the fire service. You thought the fire service had their kingdoms. You went and go talk to a water company. But anyway, what we're trying to do is build smaller outfits, smaller water companies. They don't have the resources to do what they need to do, but they can pool together, and they will have the resources. We're having some work with some folks. Apple County just completed $1 million study funded by us to see about consolidating some of their water and sewer. Roads, my standing line, somebody calls me an altitude, it's always it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. They always want to know, when is my road going to get paid? And I always tell them Wednesday. And they stop dead in their tracks. They go, Wednesday? I said, yeah, I don't know what Wednesday, but they always work on Wednesday. So, roads, we got too many roads in South Carolina. Anderson County's got 1,500 miles of roads. Greenwood County's fussing because they got 250. Every little state road, I always use town Honey Pass. Seems like every street I go down in Honey Pass, it's a state road. I have introduced legislation. In Anderson County, we're kind of ahead of the curve. We've got the Anderson County Transportation Committee that's appointed by the delegation. And what they do, they get about $8 million a year, I think it is, from the state. And the way it's set up now, 2/3 of it's got to be spent on local roads. 1/3 of it's got to be spent on state roads. So I've introduced legislation last week, and I've got about 20 co-sponsors to do away with that formula. Send the whole $8 million back to the local CTC and let them figure out where it needs to be spent. Now, there'll be some guidelines put in there. But, because and my friend, whoever's here from DOT, you won't like me about this, but DOT's flush with cash. It's our local towns, our local counties, our local folks that we have a hard time coming up and match on a lot of stuff. We just don't have the funds that the state's got available to them. And if I was keen for a day, yes sir, we pave every road in the world, but I'm not. Thank goodness I'm not. That's but I urge all the municipalities and the county as a whole to take advantage of the Rural Infrastructure Authority. I'm kind of biased. I'm vice chairman of the board, but it's one of the best run state agencies we've got. A lady named Bonnie Ammons and her staff do a wonderful job. We were the ones that appropriated the ARPA money that came down from the federal government 3-4 years ago now. All those projects that were funded by that money is going to have to be completed by December of this year. And most of them are. Most of them jumped up and it's generational type funds that came down the pipe. I use my water company, Honey Path Water, built in 1962, the actual facility. They got valves in that plant that haven't been changed since. They don't even make valves like that anymore if one of them were to break. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just stuff like that, and the way we're growing, everybody wants water. I could spend $100 billion today on water and the same amount on roads. But hanging out with us, we're trying to do some things, just like how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And we got behind on roads. There was a director of DOT 40, 50 years ago. We had a maintenance fund in DOT that was used to keep our roads up. She took all that money and started building new roads. Well, what happened now, fast forward 40 years later, the old roads got in awful shape, and the new roads she's built, now they're in bad shape. So we're really behind the 8 ball, but we're trying to work. Justin Powell, who's over DOT, is doing a wonderful job. He's been to Anderson several times. on projects that we've asked him to come up with. Logan, you've been in meetings with us. He and his staff do a good job for us. The best thing that ever happened to Anderson County, and I'm rambling on, but the best thing that ever happened to Anderson County, we used to be in the Greenville district for DOT, and they moved us to Greenwood district. And that made all the difference in the world. Those folks, you call them up and they jump on it. And, you know, they're like us, you know, we can't do everything. But if they can't, they tell us, and they tell us why. But they're real receptive to our phone calls, and like I say, it's the best thing that ever happened to us.
Ronnie trained him well.
So I do think the roads are improving. Right now, DOT has about $7 billion in the pipeline. And I do agree with Senator Gambrell, you know, when our constituents call us, they will complain that nothing's being fixed and the road's getting worse, and we know that's not true. We can name off the roads that have been repaved, but if it's the pothole in front of their house, and as far as they're concerned, nothing's happened. But we are making progress. One thing to keep in mind is there are different pots of money for roads. At noon today, I'll be at a meeting back in Anderson of the Anderson-Clemson Area Transportation Committee. And that's another organization that spends money fixing roads and intersections around the metropolitan areas. So I think we're making progress. I do agree that we got seriously behind. The gas tax has allowed a lot of money to be freed up for roads, and part of the issue there is just having enough contractors to do the work.
I'm going to stand up for this one. So first off, I'm Don Chapman. I serve District 8, which is Western Anderson County. I serve about 60% of the lake, but it goes from exit 4 to 21 all the way back down to South Main Street and all the way to the county line in the other direction. So it's a big area. But I was the only Anderson County delegation member who was appointed to the South Carolina Modernization DOT Committee, that we had a statewide meeting that we went all over the state, hearing from people like yourselves about how to modernize the DOT system. And now they are correct. We have a fair amount of money in the pipeline. I think it's $7 billion that's in the pipeline to be fixed. So on our state roads, I feel like, especially in District 8 that I've been advocating for, our state roads are being paved. If you notice, if you drive down 187 in either direction, that's been paved last year. 24 from the 85 to the county line has been paved. Currently, right now, all 19 miles from the Georgia line all the way to exit 19 is being paved both sides of 85. Now, that's a state and federal project. But when you get back to the county situation, correct, 1,550 miles of county roads. There's about the same amount of state roads that are in Anderson County. So there's on top of that, I think there's 460 bridges total in Anderson County. And because of the lake, that's why we have so many roads and we have a lot of fingers that go out. But the people spoke. It was, I think, overwhelmingly that they didn't want the penny sales tax. I have said to multiple people, I'm open to other suggestions about how we can raise money for the county they may have some additional funds they can spend, but when you have roads that cost $700 to $1 million a mile, depending on the condition of the road, you don't get very far with $4 million of CTC funding that we get that the state provides to each of the delegation, the 46 delegations, are counties within the state. So, and it varies between the population of the state. But the reason why I would ask people about the penny sales tax, I would just say, well, a third of the money was going to come from people that don't even live in Anderson County. Find another solution to try to figure out how we can get $32 million a year. That's the difficulty, because that's probably what it's going to take to catch back up to what we've got to do for the county. I believe that the county does need to set aside a larger sum of money slowly and build it up, just like we do in a savings account. Put more and more into it where you can, save where you can, spend a little less so we can put more money towards that. But at the end of the day, the modernization DOT committee that I serve on, I came up with several solutions about how we can raise revenues, but not be on the backs of South Carolinians. And so, many of y'all know I'm a car guy, so I've got a variety of cars, but I have an electric vehicle. Well, from that, if somebody drives from North Carolina to Georgia in an electric vehicle and they stop at a charging station, they are basically using our roads for free, because they're not charged a fee like your gas tax is. I think it's I forgot what it's 28.75 cents of your each gallon of gas that you buy goes to fix the roads. Now, of that 28 cents, only 3.99 comes back to Anderson County. So that's why there's a disparaging difference between what is collected and what the state uses, because they have to do a variety of other things everything from road maintenance to bridge repair and other things. But that money is trying to get more money back to Anderson County. I've advocated for more CTC funding to try to double it. And then the last thing I'll tell you, which a lot of people are very surprised by, but of the 3.99 cents that we get from the CTC, we're required for 25% of that to be spent on state roads, which to me is, they're giving you money, but then they're telling you got to spend it on the same state roads. I agree with Senator Gamble that we need to remove that all of the money that comes back to Anderson County, we need to double it, but we also need to remove the part that we have to do, spend it on state roads, or 25% of it on state roads. So I know that's a lot of information. I'll be happy to talk to anybody afterwards on it, but roads are definitely a big part of the calls that we receive daily. So any way I can help, just let me know.
I'll add, one of the great things about our delegation is how diverse we are and how the speaker places us on certain committees. So there's no reason to have two Anderson people on a modernization committee when you can let the individual that has the deepest knowledge of how that works sit on it, and then he kind of reports back to us and the Senate members that this is what they're working on. So thank you, Don, for the great explanation. I don't know the bill number, but you can Google DOT House bill number and read the whole 28 plus pages of what Don's talking about. I'll just talk about two bills really fast, both that I authored. House Bill 4050, which is concurrency. There's a companion bill that's being heard in the Senate. We heard it in the 3M committee last week. Concurrency is essentially an inadequate facilities ordinance. And so a developer would have to pay a proportionate share of what they impacted. This would kind of steer development to be where infrastructure exists so that you wouldn't be paying for stuff later on down the road. So everyone's been to, say, Crestview and Midway and can see that development. That infrastructure was not present when that was built. Concurrency would have said, hey, developer, you're going to pay into our capital improvement plan so that we can improve everything over there. It can be water sewer related, it can be parks related, it can be public safety, it can be healthcare, anything that a city or county can put in their capital improvement plan and identify a dollar amount per resident, then concurrency would essentially allow the developer to pay in that fee. It would be a huge asset across the state. It's being pushed kind of out of the Midlands area is where it originated at. So that's one bill. The other bill is House Bill 5088, which is the impact fee bill. Impact fees are great. They're paid for by developers for new construction, except for they only last for 3 years once you collect the funds, and you cannot resurface roads. So an impact fee can be spent to add a turn lane, but it cannot repave the lane that you're driving down. And so this piece of legislation, which has not had a hearing yet, would extend that to 7 years, since you have 7 years once you collect the funds to expend the funds, and you would be allowed to resurface roads with it. Again, kind of to Don's point, we're all looking for different avenues to create the funding for the county to be able to resurface the roads without a penny or without additional fees or taxes. This would be one of those ways.
You do a lot of good work for a part-time job, don't they? Moving on to, since there are a lot of employers in here, is to the workforce side of the house. A lot of talk has been going on for years about the workforce, and in K-12 education seems to always get the largest portion of attention as well as dollars. Some things that are going on, just get your thoughts on the expansion of dual enrollment. And we have a wonderful technical college system here, with Tri-County Tech as well. And a lot of the students, I think the system in South Carolina educates about 150,000 students a year, which most of them are residents of South Carolina. They stay in South Carolina, stay in their communities. But we have a little issue sometimes, and I'm not going, the words are thrown out, you may read in the paper or blogs or wherever, tuition mitigation. So this is kind of a two-part question. One, thoughts on the expansion of the dual enrollment, but also tuition assistance back to our local technical colleges. So whenever the pay raises, I think that was just in the budget passed the House, are in there. Those aren't funded at the college level, except for maybe 5% of the workforce. So therefore, it creates a problem that they have to increase. The power goes up for these things. How do you feel or view we can expand dual enrollment, which is done at our technical colleges, and also keep that tuition affordable?
Well, I appreciate the dual enrollment programs that are offered at the technical colleges. If you don't know, I have 8 children. They all went to college. My wife homeschooled them all through high school. But when they got into high school, every single one of them took some dual enrollment courses, whether at Tri-County, Pendleton, or in Easley. Some of them went to Greenville. And so someone can go there and, you know, it's not that expensive, and yet you're earning college credits so that if you want to, you can, when you go to college, you can finish quicker and cheaper than you would otherwise. I think it also, taking those courses at the technical colleges allows the high schoolers to get a feel for the classroom college environment and prepare them, you know, so that when they start in a 4-year university after that, they're more prepared and more likely to do well. I think everyone on the delegation shares the sentiment that we have a crown jewel here in Tri-County Tech, and we do all that we can to be supportive of that. I think they're certainly one of the leading technical schools in the state.
No, touch on one thing, dual enrollment needs to expand. It's amazing that we've got students going to Belton, Honeypath, and Crescent, the 2 high schools that I represent, or one of the 2 high schools represent, with Palmetto and some of the Wren and some of the rest of them. Those guys can get out of college, they can graduate high school and be ready to go to work. They've got an associate degree just about in their hand. And Gail, you tell me if I'm wrong, but you know, it's just amazing what dual enrollment has done. You're seeing, you know, when I came along back in the dark ages, everybody thought you had to go to a 4-year school. Now it's not so much. You know, y'all have heard me say this year after year after year. We've been so fortunate in Anderson County to bring in manufacturing jobs. We can hire 200 CNC machinists today in Anderson County. And Tri-County Tech is putting them out there as fast as they can. We're working with dual enrollment, trying to help them on that, trying to give them some tax breaks, to the company's tax breaks, or where they can actually go to the company and do what you, for lack of a better term, you call it an internship. But the tech schools are the key to manufacturing. Give you a little thing, how important our tech schools are. Everybody hears about the national GDP, gross domestic product. That's what we make. Everybody gets all excited when GDP gets to 3-4%, just goes crazy. Every state's got a GDP, gross domestic product. South Carolina, we make stuff. You know what our GDP is? Almost 7. It's absolutely amazing what we make in this state.
Amen.
Hey, cars, airplanes, that's all we're going, building 40 airplanes for some new startup airline. But, and we're, you know, even though Boeing's in a little part of the state, their suppliers, a lot of their suppliers are still here. And that's what helps us, is things like that. That's where our technical colleges and our 4-year colleges step up to help on that.
First, I have a son who is 17 that I hope attends Tri-County Tech. That's kind of a nod, Galen. I might need you to go talk to him. That I hope attends Tri-County Tech. And I've told this story 1,000 times, so if you've heard it, just roll your eyes. My first year at Clemson, I failed biology miserably. And when I say miserably, I mean like they didn't even put a grade. It was just your GPA is 0 for this class. And so it's a little outside of dual enrollment, but my dad said, well, you need to go to Tri-County and take biology. And Dr. DeHay was my professor who sat with me one-on-one to explain biology 101 so that I could pass. I made an A in the course. I graduated. He became the president of Tri-County. I think those two are related. But the dual enrollment's important. The expansion of Tri-County Tech's programs are important. Specifically for me, the forestry technician degree is one that will be huge for the entire Southeast that I'm extremely excited about. I think the other thing, kind of to tie to the Department of Employment Workforce, one, I sit on the Legislative Oversight Committee, and we reviewed them this year. Their fraud rate is extremely low. The number of people that they help is extremely high, and the time frame in which they do it is extremely short. And one of the things we did this past week was tie unemployment benefits to the unemployment rate as well. So if the unemployment rate is low, the benefits for the weeks are shorter because you have more job opportunities. If the rate is high, then the unemployment benefits go for a longer period of time. For us in Anderson County, there are a ton of jobs. If you know somebody that is unemployed, make them see Burris Nelson and he can find them a job immediately somewhere in this county. There are a ton of opportunities and they continue to grow, and that's because of the partnerships between the state, the county, and Tri-County Tech, and I'm extremely thankful for that.
Of our technical schools. You know, we have the main campus on 76, and then we have another Anderson facility that is expanding right now. Through all the programs that they do, I'm in architecture and construction, so architecture requires a college degree, but construction doesn't. If you want to be a plumber, an electrician, or a mechanical engineer or mechanical person to do installation, you could make 6 figures if you had any gumption about you and really wanted to push to expand your business. But I believe 100% that we need to expand dual enrollment. I think there's an opportunity for, if you can get a high schooler into, maybe they're not ready or not willing to want to go to a 4-year school, but yet they start out at a technical school, they can find a vocation that they really love and enjoy and can make good money at. And then if they so desire, they can move on and come to, AU or Clemson, preferably not Carolina as much, but I'm married to a Clemson grad, so I had to say that. I definitely applaud that our technical system here is the best in the state by a lot of measures, but it's probably the best in the Southeast by many measures as well. So I applaud the technical school system and Galen for all your hard work in making that happen.
And just to give a plug, some of you may or may not know that actually they're on the cutting edge of doing something totally different with dual enrollment, with a dual enrollment academy that I think most of all the Tri-County area high schools are participated in. So if your kids go to Tri-County Tech and dual enrollment, they score above what the GPA they have to maintain, 3.0. You don't have to take the ACT or SAT, and you're automatically into Clemson. So that's thinking outside the box. Actually, that's thinking without a box, and making a box and make it all happen. And the delegation plays a big role in that, and it does take the funding and the support of everyone to do that. We're kind of getting close on time, so, and they all, this is their part-time job, not their full-time job. First met Mikey. He should have known never to get in politics, because the first time I ever met Mike was in my office in Columbia, and the old saying is, politics is a big dumpster fire. Well, my first talk to Mikey, he's like, "Oh my God, really? Oh my God, really?" I said, "You need to use my office." He said, "Yeah, my trash truck's on fire." Should have been a sign never go into politics, Mikey. But no, we are blessed, and that was not a Wednesday either, I don't believe. But so we are blessed to have our delegation and the members that are here to talk with us. It is a thankless job. So kind of to wrap things up on the question part for each one of you, I guess, just a little bit about what you're working on or what goal you would like to have accomplished either this session. I know the senators have 2 more years, House members up for re-election, but what is something you're working on that helps our community or the state in general? So, I mean, go ahead.
One thing that I left off, we were talking about dual enrollment. I got the evil eye from Holly Harrell sitting right there at our Anderson Technology Center for District 22, and also we've got the new one over on 28 for Districts 3, 4, and 5. Folks, those are feeder bands into Tri-County Tech and into our colleges, and I can't brag on them enough. For the ones of you that don't know, Holly has to bring her budget before the delegation every year, and it's always right down the line. They justify every penny. And it's that way with most everything in Anderson County that we're responsible for. But I just want to make sure I didn't leave those folks out, because like you say, they're a big part of our new enrollment with Tri-County Tech and Clemson and Anderson University. Dr. Whitaker here. Anyway, shout out Dr. Whitaker. Look at what's happened at Anderson University. Wow, it's incredible how it's growing, the things that they're doing. Y'all, do me a favor. We changed gears 10 times a day in Columbia. I had 5 bills on the calendar, one right behind the other last week. First one dealt with setting the prime rate for loans. Second one dealt with military chaplains. Then one of the other ones dealt with bridge loans for if you were looking for a house and your house is for sale, and you find you another house. South Carolina is one of the few states where you can't get a loan to bridge that gap. That's why they're called bridge loans, to get you there. It dealt with that. We designated June 1st as Gold Shield Day, which honors any first responder that's killed in the line of duty. To me, that was a special deal. And then we're in the middle of that. The House has completed their budget. We're in the middle of having budget hearings. And the way the process works starts in the House. The budget starts in the House every year. Their budget week will be about the second week of March.
Yes, sir.
Ours will be later on. It'll be end of April, toward middle of April. All the agencies, anybody that's looking for something in the budget comes before different subcommittees. I serve on Senate Finance. We're having 2 meetings a week with state agencies coming before us, presenting their budgets to us. Keep in mind, when I went to the General Assembly in 2006, our budget was $5.2 billion. Budget this year is going to be over $15 billion. Now, before somebody jumps up and says, "Oh, God, we're going to give some of that money back." Here's the way we give it back. 10% of that money comes right off the top, and it goes into what me and you call a savings account. Split back for a rainy day. We remember 2008, some of us do. We double that money back, and it's a savings account, but now it goes down as spending. How many of y'all count spending and money you put in the savings account? We get beat up all the time, but 10% right off the top, before we ever even start with agencies, the things that we fund, comes right off the top of that, and that's a smart thing, because it's coming. I mean, the economy does this, no matter who's where or what. It runs in cycles. But like I say, we'll have those meetings. We've been very fortunate in South Carolina. The state's booming. You know, they won't go on forever, but enjoy it while we can. We're doing a lot of good things. You know, like I say, as I said before, we switch gears 100 times. All of us on this panel know a little bit about something. We've all got a little expertise in one subject or the other. But this is where we depend on folks in the chamber and folks in the communities. Y'all are the experts on something that we might be talking about that day. You see something on the calendar that's coming up that interests you, pick up the phone and let us know. We need to hear your perspective. Sometimes, you know, you hate to say you get insulated in Columbia, but you do. It's just human nature. And also, you know, if you've got a question or you read something that just sounds like way out there, give us a call or email us. Best thing that ever happened to our job is emails. Because when you send me or Richard or Don or Blake an email, that's in your words. Whatever your issue is, that's in your words. And what we can do, we can forward that email to who can help you, get you an answer. We'll get you an answer. It's going to be the right answer. It's not always going to be the answer you want to hear, but it'll be the right answer. And that's the least we can do. You know, everybody asks me every year we start General Assembly, what's your most important thing? And for 20 years, it's been the same thing for me. It's constituent service. It's where the rubber meets the road. We've all got good staff that works for us. Kathy Marsh, who y'all heard me brag on forever, she's in her 52nd year in the Senate. She's forgotten all about the Senate, and I'll never know. But please reach out to us and do me a favor. Don't leave the noise. If you see something that sounds outlandish, pick up the phone and call us. We'll tell you. We'll find somebody that can. And that's what we fight every day. You know, the same people that were experts on COVID are now experts on everything else. You know, but that's what we fight. And we try to do the best that we're at. I can truthfully say for our delegation, and I think Richard will agree with the chairman, we are there for the right reason. 98% of the people in Columbia are there for the right reason. They're trying to do what's best for everybody in the state. And, you know, the county folks are here, a lot of the small towns, the city folks are here. Anderson County's been blessed, and the reason Anderson County's been blessed is good people like y'all, and it makes a big difference when we're all pulling in the same direction. When we can project a united Logan, the federal delegation works with us, when we can present a united front to, whether it be an industrial recruit or anything, they'll see through it in a skinny minute if we're not all pulling in the same direction. But all right, I've rambled on enough, but I thank you for having us this morning.
2 weeks ago, we had a special call meeting, and the delegation voted to set aside $200,000 from the Water Rec Fund to help build 3 additional ramps at Green Pond Landing. And I saw in the Greenville News today, I mean, right on cue, you know, Anderson has won another one of these national bass fishing tournaments coming back to Anderson. And these tournaments produce multi-million-dollar ripple effects in the economy. But anyway, that's just part of the money that's needed for that project, but it's something that's going to benefit Anderson for years to come. I was proud that we were able to do that on the local level. As far as Columbia goes, most of what I'm working on is determined by whatever subcommittees I'm on, because I serve on 4 different committees and subcommittees, hear the bills and take public testimony. So the majority of my time is whatever is assigned to the subcommittees, that's what I'm working on. And trying to keep up with it all can be pretty taxing, because that's where the bills are supposed to be vetted. As far as the singular issue, I think anyone who knows me will know that the #1 issue for me is pro-life. You know, a lot of people think that when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, that was the end of the abortion issue. Folks, it's not the end of it. It just turned it back to the states, okay? And so I am probably the leading pro-life advocate in the South Carolina Senate. If there's a subcommittee on it, I'm probably going to be on that subcommittee, most likely chairing the subcommittee. I know it's a very controversial thing. A lot of people don't want to hear about it, don't want to think about it, don't want to talk about it. It's not going away. If you believe that human life is sacred, that it's a gift from God, then our first duty, I believe, as a government, is to protect innocent life. So, having said that, I'll pass it over to the House.
I tell you, Senator Cash, when he first got elected, I was fortunate to serve with these two gentlemen, but I missed y'all. This guy reads. If you send him something, he will read it, and he will study it, and he will ask good questions. So he is thorough, I can tell you that much.
So yes, I too am excited about Green Pine Landing, and that actually facility is within District 8, so it's done tremendous. It's been an asset for our community, bringing new people to Anderson as far as heads and beds, which creates additional revenue. But real quickly, I just want to, I won't go as long as mine. So real quickly, I do have a couple of bills that I did put in, because just like everyone in here, you don't want to pay more taxes. And one of the big complaints that we get on a regular basis is property tax. And so I did file a bill that allows for your primary residence, if you've paid in for 5 years, that would allow you at the age of 70 to have a 25% reduction, then at 75, another 25% reduction, at 80, and then at 85, your property tax goes away on your primary residence. Now, just to caution the county, there is a state that refunds that to try to get back that money back to the counties. But the goal is that at your primary residence, eventually you should be able to own. I don't think that we can just all at one time just take out property tax altogether without majorly increasing sales tax or something like that. The second one has to do with your primary vehicle. One primary vehicle at the age of 65, it's another bill that would allow your one primary vehicle within a household to be non-taxed. Again, the state reimburses for those lost revenues, but eventually I think that would help seniors, widows, people that have a primary car that they use to go back and forth to the grocery store, to the church, and things like that. That's not would allow them to be able to own that vehicle after they've paid in for 5 years. And then the last one was one that I started the discussion about a product that's in our convenience stores. Has anyone ever heard of Kratom? Okay, there's one back there so Dr. Geisberg said yes. So Kratom is a pill. It's a liquid, and it's a powder that you can buy within a convenience store that acts like an opioid. And until this past year that we got passed, a 16-year-old could go in and buy that. And so people were getting addicted to it. It's more addictive than an opioid. And so we now have new legislation there's 3 different bills. One of the bills that I have is to, because right now you can still have a synthetic version, but it had to go behind the register. It has to be 21 to purchase it, because we had to take kind of baby steps. And now we're trying to get rid of it altogether, or at least remove the synthetic version, because that's what's making it a lot more potent and a lot more addictive. So if you go back and research anything from the FDA, they think it's the next opioid crisis. So and right now it's in our convenience stores and our smoke shops. So we got to get rid of that. And then the last thing I want to say is I have always been a big advocate for public safety. I had 2 brothers in law enforcement. I joined the rescue squad at 14. So public safety has always been a major focus for me, especially when it comes to us bringing money back to Anderson. I've been able to get money for Anderson County fire, our volunteer fire systems that are within my district, as well as Anderson County Sheriff's Department. And so every year we call them Senator Gamble kind of said this, rather than earmarks, they're called community investments. It's a little better term, but the goal is to bring some money back, because if we don't ask for it, it's going to go to one of the other 46 counties. And so my goal when I got elected is I was going to primarily try to bring money back for our public safety, police, fire, EMS, and also our veterans, because I think they're a part of our public safety. They just have retired. And so last thing, I can always be reached at 864-940-6676. When somebody calls me, I publish my mobile number. When somebody calls me, I don't ask if they live in my district. I just want to know if you send me an email from Anderson, I do my very best of the 150 that we receive a day to try to decipher the ones that are from Anderson County. I try to first focus on the ones from District 8 and then move on to the ones, and I like to call you. So if you give me your number, I'll call you directly, because I'm better at that than email, because I have a 2-hour and 20-minute drive to Columbia, and so that's a good way to use that time. Hands-free, by the way. We passed that bill. So, yeah. So, and lastly, I just want to say, I love Anderson, as many of us do here. I grew up in Anderson. I've been here since I was age of 5. I'm 5th generation. The only reason I wasn't born here is because my dad joined the military, and after a 22-year service, he brought 5 kids and my mother back. And so we've been here ever since. I love my community. That's why I'm giving back. And I've got 2 challengers this year, and they're new to Anderson. One of them is far away from California. So I want to continue to serve. I'm only in my 4th year. I'm on LCI, which is Labor, Commerce, and Industry, which is right up my alley. So I appreciate your time and all of y'all being here to participate. Thanks.
Thanks to Mike and Don, I have probably a total of 1 minute to pull this together. So I'm a nerd, so I'm in the growth and planning world. And so I'm going to be focused over the next few months on concurrency, transferable development rights, expanding the conservation bank, income tax reduction for young farmers. Those are going to be kind of the bills that you'll probably see my name attached to or op-eds written about. That's primarily going to be my focus. I gave every opportunity for everyone up here to mention homestead exemption passed the Senate last week, which would increase that to $150,000, which is triple. I was positive that Gambrell or Cash would have mentioned that. It is a huge step in the right direction, and it does not reduce funding to any of the counties. So as Don was mentioning, we're going to take money and supplement. We're going to pass that in the House. We're going to get the governor to sign that. I'm positive of. The other one that is in the Senate that we hope all of you will call Senator Gambrell and Senator Cash this afternoon and tell them to pass would be the boat tax reduction. So we passed that last year in the House. That would cut boat taxes almost in half.
We're for it.
They're for it. There we go. All right. Don't call them. Call somebody else. And we worked with the counties because the counties will see a reduction in revenue. So we work with the counties to kind of mitigate how that's going to be staged in over a couple of years. As the freshman, I have a little bit different view on kind of the upcoming election or kind of how we operate during our session. And so I believe that there's a difference between, or the day you're elected, you stop campaigning and you start governing. And so, June 24th of 24, I started governing that day, and I stopped campaigning. And so I always said during the campaign, people first, or people over politics. And I believe that came from Senator Gambrell and the constituent service that he gives his constituents and has instilled in the rest of the delegation to do as well. I could look at each table and know that someone has communicated with me about something they were passionate about or a bill that was being heard. Councilman Steele, Mayor Dorn, Dr. Geisberg, we've all kind of communicated over the course of time. Over the course of the past 2 years about what's important. And so I would urge you to continue to communicate. Do not let this be the last time until June that you see our face or that you hear us. None of us are, having stand-up town halls where we're talking about what we're doing, because we believe that one-on-one town halls are the best. So please, please, please communicate with us first. And I won't give out my cell phone number because you can literally go into ChatGPT and type in, what is Representative Blake Sanders' phone number? And it will spit it out for you. So we'll make you do the homework. But please communicate with all of us as much as you can. And as Senator Gambrell says so eloquently and says to open up every statement with, it is an honor to serve you in the South Carolina House. And I pray that I get to continue to do that over the next couple of years.
And I can attest that they are accessible, and they are this morning. I mean, they're here. They could be somewhere else, but they're not. They have jobs, but they showed up to answer questions and tell you what's going on in Columbia. We didn't get into the tax questions. I had a few of those, but I also see former Chairman Cooper over there who lived during the days of those downturns, Mikey. I served with him that, and it was some bad times I hope no one ever has to see again. I know Dan feels the same way, but it was not pretty. And I do love the part of serving versus campaigning every day, because nothing against you, Logan, but that seems to be what the federal government does, is raise money and campaign every day, and we see how functional they are. So we are blessed to have a functional group amongst us this morning that serve and represent us in the State House, and I want to thank you all for coming out and all you did. Brandy,
Thank you for your leadership, your service, and your dedication for our community. We are also grateful for it, and it's noticed across the board. We have a lot going on, and you don't want me to stand up here and talk about that because we'd be here for another 45 minutes. But what you need to do is check us out on social media. If you are not on our email list, we can help you with that. We will be back here in April, and that announcement will come out this week of who is going to be there. So you'll want to be watching for that. You'll definitely want to get your seat for that. We have a treat for you. This is something very important that we look forward to kicking off every year, is our legislative breakfast. It's a necessity for you guys to come in, hear this, and sit and listen to what they've been working for, but it's also a treat. So it's great to have you guys here, hear what you're working on, listen to the relationship you have. Brian, thank you so much for moderating for us today. I reached out to him, and it was just in a second. He said yes. He didn't hesitate whatsoever. So I couldn't think of a better person to take care of that for us this morning. We hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you again in April.